What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron. And this is episode 186, which means I'm closing in on 200 episodes, which is kind of crazy that I'm almost approaching 200. And, they say that a lot of people can't even get past the first couple. So to get close to 200 has been it's been real cool. And into the amount of people have been networking throughout this journey these last 3-4 years have been cool, and I got a couple gentlemen here that are gonna be joining me. So we're gonna dive into Memphis Grizzlies. They had a lot of things happen this offseason. I think a few things happened. So we're gonna dive into that. We're gonna talk about offseason moves they want to see, the NBA draft. They got a few picks. Let's see. I'm gonna ask the guys, what guys they've been looking at, who you think would be good fits, and just get into some other NBA general conversations, some trades. We hear some rumors about Bradley Beal. Maybe Bradley Beal, Memphis. We'll talk about all that good stuff. But let me introduce the gentleman. And Francis, you've seen him before on the pod before. He's been on the show quite a few times, but we got a new face here. My guy Brandon, one of the best follows on Twitter. So, gentlemen, what's going on?
Chris, yeah, man, I'm good. Brandon, go ahead. I interrupted you, please. You go ahead.
No, appreciate it, man. Chris, what's going on? Thanks so much for having me. Love Off the Ball Network. Love the content y'all push out. You're actually one of the first people, in addition to Francis, that I met on the NBA Twitter universe. So it's an honor to be here. Love what you do with the network. Love you guys' content. So thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. Francis, my guy, sir. What's going on?
I'm living, man. Can't complain. Got living in sunny San Diego. Well, it's actually weirdly not very sunny right now. It's actually been cloudy recently, but
it's about to pour in New York, and we had Canada almost destroyed us a few days last week. I don't know what Canada was doing over there. They were trying to kill.
It's all Canada's fault. It's always Canada's fault. Like at the end of the day, if anything's bad going on in the world, it's his fault. So the fires, New York looking like Dune or Mad Max or something. It
was crazy. It was nuts, I remember just walking out and I was in Queens and I'm like, is there a house on fire?
Yeah.
Because it smelled like, and then I heard a fire truck. So I'm like, a house is on fire. Makes sense, right? Because there was a bunch of fire trucks. And then I'm like, all right, then I go to a different borough and I'm like, hold up, the same smell. And I'm like,
the same smell.
It's like, I know I haven't got an oil change yet, man. Is my car about to blow up that I don't know about?
Oh.
So I'm like, oh man, my car is going to blow up. Then because the smell just kept, and I'm like, then everybody, I started tweeting and all that on Facebook. I was like, okay, my car's good. That's right. The car's not going to blow up because I didn't get an oil change. But that was a crazy day and all that, but everything's well. But guys, you guys also are part of Bluff City Media, covering all things Memphis and all that. So I wanted to add that too. But guys, let's Memphis Grizzlies, man. Obviously, Francis, we've talked about it. Last time you were on the show, we talked right before, the exit versus the Los Angeles Lakers. And, and you guys, we were going over that series and all that. Obviously, you guys lost, and then a lot has gone on obviously after that. And then we know what happened. We know what's going on. We don't got to dive into all that. But I just want to get your guys' thoughts on, the off season and what do you guys need to see from this team to move forward, to forget about everything that happened and move forward and to be back, try to advance and maybe get to the conference finals and all that and all that and compete with the Nuggets, the now defending world champions and all that, and try to get past the Lakers and all that. What moves you need to see this off season to get to back there?
Yeah, I'll let Brandon go ahead. I need to close my door, so it's a good time. I'll let Brandon go for it. I'm still here, but
Word. Okay. So when it comes to the Grizzlies, we all saw what transpired against the LA Lakers in the first round. The Grizzlies, I think the biggest thing that just stood out to me was the lack of experience, right? The Lakers, headlined by Bron and AD, it just felt like every single game they knew what to do, right? They knew,
100%.
Okay, this is how we're going to attack the glass. Get our points scored, This is our going to push the pace, get out in transition.
Mm-hmm.
The Grizzlies just didn't have that experience. It was the youth, I think, in totality. And you heard that in the exit interviews when Zach Kleiman said, we tripled down on youth coming into the season, right? They brought in Jake Laravia, David Roddy, Kennedy Chandler, who didn't end up keeping. So they, in that transaction, they also said goodbye, waved goodbye to Kyle Anderson and DeAnthony Melton, two really big vet presences on the team. So I think the Grizzlies just need veteran players, plain and simple. I think it was really clear in that Lakers series that they don't have veteran guys on this roster who have really been in the thick of the playoffs, the thick of really in this league, deep playoff runs. And I think for the Grizzlies to take that next step into title contention, because look, we know this roster is talented. They have John Morant, one of the elite point guards in the game, Desmond Bane, and an emerging 3-level scorer, Jaren Jackson, one of the most dominant two-way bigs in the games. The issue is the lack of talent. It's just the veteran presence. They need a veteran presence, multiple of them, to just really kind of reset this locker room, really bring and add maturity into this locker room in addition to that growth. So this offseason, I think what is on the forefront of my mind is getting those veteran players who can help the Grizzlies take that next step into title contention.
Yep. Francis?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Brandon said. I mean, Brandon, we talked about the Grizzlies Lakers on the podcast I do, Up and Under, and it's the issues were evident. And I think a lot, like when we talked about the first round preview, when you and me, Chris, we kind of just, I said if Steven Adams is healthy, the Lakers, they probably don't have enough. I'll put Grizzlies in 6, but if Adams isn't healthy, maybe the Lakers can win the series, and maybe I'll go Grizzlies in 7. I couldn't pick against my team. But part of what I said was right. And with no Steven Adams, there were genuine issues that the Grizzlies had. Part of that was the lack of a veteran presence. Like Steve-O was such a calming presence throughout the lineup, especially when he's in the game. But even if he's not, he's still such a calming guy to have on a roster. Really sets the tone physically, especially, but also emotionally, I think, as well, in terms of being focused and locked in. So those issues just really came to a forefront. I echo what Brandon said. Veteran leadership is very important. And also, let's just address the elephant in the room. They still need a legitimate 3-and-D wing. They need that very badly. That Dylan Brooks wasn't the answer. He isn't going to be the answer because he's not going to come back. So who is it going to be? We're going to talk about free agency. We're going to talk about trades. And I don't want to gas myself up too much, but I've got some chaotic 3-team trades ready to go for y'all. Chaotic. I love it. I love it. We'll get there when we get there.
You get a Mike Bing Bang for that. Bang.
There we go. Yeah. So there are options out there. The trade market, I think it's a healthy trade market. Free agency, I wouldn't call this free agent market anything stellar, but there are options.
I think every big move we're going to see is going to be trades. I think
I agree. But the free agency market, there are still veteran guys, like definitely scorers that you can get with the mid-level exception, and guys that add some depth to the roster. So, we're going to get to those options in a moment, but I think the issues that I think us as Grizzlies fans tried to gloss over because they were still the 2nd seed, Ja was just returning, and we thought we were good. Well, at the end of the day, those issues were much larger than we thought. So it's the most important offseason in Memphis Grizzlies history. I truly believe that, and We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and Francis, when we talked about that series going into it, I think we kind of felt like, okay, yes, we know the Grizzlies are down. They're down men. But we kind of felt like just them being young, athletic, maybe that's good enough to beat the Lakers, who are still an older team and all that they could just beat them just strictly off their youth and just their energy. And we didn't see that, right? We didn't see that. We didn't see that versus the Lakers. The Lakers felt like they had a chip in their shoulder. And obviously the whole Dylan Brooks stuff maybe gave the Lakers, they poked the bear. They poked the bear, and and with the whole Dylan Brooks stuff, we could talk about all the antics and all that, but beyond that, to get Francis, we've talked about this, the value you got from Dillon Brooks. You don't get value like, yes, is he an inconsistent shooter? We know that, right? 40%, that's around what he shoots. He probably takes way too many. He probably thinks very highly of himself as a player. But when you're a second round pick, you got to kind of have that edge to make it in this league as a second round pick. We see it from Draymond. Sure. We've seen it from plenty. The MVP, back-to-back MVP, he has that little, So, like, yes, we could get mad at the antics and all that, but to get the value out of a second round pick, what was he, in the 40s or 50s? What doesn't even matter. It was a second round pick.
Yeah, it don't matter.
Second round picks aren't supposed to, be able to potentially get themselves a nice contract, in their second contract and all that. We don't see that a lot, but and that's how I kind of look at it. It's like, yeah, we got all the, all the talk and all that, but the value of what you got out of him, you squeezed all the juice out of that, and you got a lot out of it, So, like, I think that's one way to look. Yes, he's not going to be on the team no more, but to get the value of like that, of a player like that in the second round is to me, shows a lot of how you developed and all that,
I don't want to. I'll keep it short because this is not the Dillon Brooks show. But Dillon Brooks, like you mentioned, he was in so many ways a culture setter for the Grizzlies, right? You think about the persona the Grizzlies embodied for the past couple of seasons, just really tough, not afraid of anything, just not afraid of the moment. Dillon Brooks was that guy, right? Like he was the guy at the forefront of it all who really built that formative Memphis culture. You saw him in those, a lot of those like social media videos that the players would do their entrances into the games. Like he was this culture setter. He fit Memphis like a glove and the culture of the city like a glove. And also on the court, he was a stellar defender, second team all defense just this past season. So Dillon Brooks, I think for all of just like the criticism that he received for everything that he did for this team, I think his contributions for Memphis, for the Grizzlies, were just phenomenal in what he did and just building this culture that the Grizzlies are going to grow into success. Just in life, some things they come to an end. Some things come to a natural end. Parties need to move on, determine the best steps, and I think that's really just the case with Dillon Brooks.
And I appreciated Jaren Jackson going on Paul George's podcast and not criticizing him at all. If anything, he backed his brother's teammate.
He defended him because, like Paul George said, I don't appreciate.
They were trying to get at Triple J.
They were trying to like get a bit and all that, and he was like, "Nah, man, we played cards. We did this. He was cool. Like he that's my guy. Like he essentially said, that's my guy. I'm not gonna, he did what he did. Is like, and also like." Yeah, we say he poked the bear and all that, but that's not why they lost. Like they didn't lose because Dillon Brooks was talking smack and all that. Like they lost because they were undermanned and just the Lakers just played better. It really is that simple. Like, but I appreciated him doing that because he could have just went, crazy and just said, yeah, man, that was terrible. I couldn't stand him, blah, blah, blah. And even on his demeanor. Because sometimes players could lie, but you can see it, like, and even in his everything, his demeanor and all that. I was like, I think he's telling the truth. Like I believe what he's saying, for sure.
He seemed even like slightly agitated that
that's enough because he was like
the other co-host kept trying to pick at Jaren. It's like asking all these questions about it. He looked slightly like, come on, bro. Like I get it, you got to ask the questions, but like I'm gonna rock with my guy always. Like. No, I'm not gonna try to make like a fucking viral tweet for you no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So
he protected. I
appreciate it.
Yeah. And that's like I said, they're not teammates no more. They're not gonna be teammates. And he could have just went crazy and like, that's crazy. He was too much. Couldn't stand him. He's the reason why we lost. And like he said, the Lakers had a little bit, of an edge, a little bit more, because of that. But it's like that's still not why we lost. We lost because we were just really undermanned, jaw hurt, all that. Like we're missing, our bigs that we need, like, and so it's like there was a lot more to it, I watched that podcast a couple of days ago, and I was because you saw the clips on social media going around. I was waiting to watch the full because this, you know how clips can get a little bit misconstrued and like there's no context to it. And I watched it. I was like, oh no, he was defending him, you know. And I'm sure a lot of people on the team would defend him. You know, I know people want to go crazy on him, but you know, but Francis, I know you said you had some crazy trades, but with this, we are in the off season. You know, not a lot of teams have the teams that have cap are the teams that are, you know, in the top 5 of the draft. So we know there may be some players going there, but you know, obviously Dylan Brooks essentially is the only big piece right now that's, you know, going to, and he was making what, $17 million. So you guys don't have cap. It's essentially you're going to bring back a lot of the same, you know, team, but you got 3, you know, I got a first round pick and got 2 seconds, which 2 seconds very valuable nowadays in the NBA. So, so potentially you guys can make a move, trade up, whatever. So what are some moves? Give me a couple moves from each of you guys that you feel like you want to see Memphis do in order to, like we said before, get back, advance, you know, maybe get to the conference finals and all that, and obviously get to an NBA final, because I think you guys are still, I know a lot of people are down on you guys. You know, they loved you. That's the one thing. They loved you guys a few years ago, right? The gritty, now they turn on you. You know how that works. Listen, I'm from I'm
so
a
fast.
fan.
You know it.
I see it every day.
I know.
You know, so I understand that. So now you guys are the villains. Everybody loved you. You know, they're like, you know, you guys a top 5 team in the future and all. And now they guys. So what do you guys need to see? You know, what are some moves you guys want to see? You know, for you guys to get back and potentially get, you know, to the finals and all that.
Yeah, Brandon, go ahead, man. Yeah, I'll let you lead.
No, you got it, Francis. Are
you sure?
I want to. Francis got some. I know he's cooking up. He's in the lab. He got something.
All right. Francis. Oh my days. All right. Okay. So let me start with something. A 3-team trade that
does it involve RJ Barrett?
It does not involve RJ Barrett. I'm really sorry about that.
Francis, I could have had you there. You know, I'll drive him now. Drive him there.
Yeah, I'm good. I'll pass on that one. But so look, I think there are a lot of things Memphis could do during the draft. They could either obviously stay pat, which I hope they don't. I hope they trade up. I really hope they trade up into the lottery. I think the recent reports are they're really trying to trade up into the late lottery and draft a guy they like a lot. So, you know, if that's the case, fantastic. But, you know, let's go bold. Let's go big. Let's do something that maybe a little bit off the wall. A 3-team trade between the Chicago Bulls, Brooklyn Nets, and the Memphis Grizzlies. All right. Ooh. So the Memphis Grizzlies will receive Alex Caruso, Cam Thomas, and sign and trade with Cam Johnson. So on Fanspo, the NBA trade machine, you could modify a contract and do a sign and trade on the website, which is great. It's a great feature for all of us to mess around with.
I love that site.
So I gave Cam Johnson 4 years, $20 million. That sounds about right in terms of what he's probably going to get.
Shout out Cam. Shout out you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, shout out him. You know, that's probably around where he's going to get. So I just did that. So 4 years, $20 million. So Grizzlies get Caruso, Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas. Brooklyn gets Xavier Tillman, Zaire Williams, 2023 second round, 2024 first from Golden State. Memphis' 2023 first, the other 2023 second round pick, and Chicago throws in a 2024 first round pick, because Chicago gets Tyus Jones, David Roddy, and a 2025 second round pick from the Grizzlies. I think this one is fascinating, mainly because I'm a big Cam Johnson guy. I mean, if you're an NBA fan, you should be a big Cam Johnson guy. So if a sign and trade is possible to get Cam Johnson, then I think Memphis should absolutely go for it. Now, the safer play is trading for Dorian Finney-Smith. That's the safer option. You don't have to do a sign and trade. His contract is more team friendly, and he would slot really well in Memphis. I think that's also a really good option. Mikal Bridges is a pipe dream. That's never happening. But I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Let's swing for the fence and do something chaotic. And I think for Chicago, getting Tyus Jones on that roster, I think would be really beneficial. We don't know what they want to do with DeMar. I know they want to try and build with Zach LaVine, but you have Tyus Jones, an actual point guard table setter that, with the unfortunate health issues of Lonzo Ball, super unfortunate that what's gone on with him and his knees and his injuries, with him likely not being in the fold for the immediate or maybe even later future, Tyus Jones is a great point guard, great table setter to play with Zach LaVine And if they want to keep DeMar, another great guy, great point guard to play with, Sack and DeMar, and obviously they still have Vucevic. Vuce, I think, he's either entering free agency next season or he is entering free agency this season. I can't remember. But either way, I think there's value for Chicago to get Tyus Jones. David Roddy's another good back. As you know, Brandon's a big Roddy guy. It would hurt to lose him. Roddy. I know Brandon's a big Roddy guy, but I would, as a Grizzlies fan, I would be pumped to get Cam Thomas. He's an absolute bucket, and he's a microwave scorer. Bring him off the bench on a friendly contract, and I mean he's still on his rookie deal.
Still on under control, yeah.
He would be a really good bench scorer that the Grizzlies just don't have. Like, we're going to talk about free agency in a bit too. The Grizzlies don't have a microwave, just straight up bucket getter coming off the bench, and that's literally what Cam Thomas is to a T. So I think he'd be great.
Didn't he have like a stretch this year where he had like
three straight 40-point games?
3 straight 40-point, yeah.
3 straight,
and then he got benched
games,
and all that, like.
Yeah,
and we tend to see that with a lot of these microwave scorers who just see one thing. They just see the basket and all that. Yeah. And we know how the NBA coaches don't like that and all that. But I felt like the Nets needed to let him especially once you traded Kyrie and KD, is like let him go loose. See what you got, because it could be a piece that you could potentially trade if you want to try to go back and try to get the star, because we've heard there in rumblings about maybe getting some guys, or just see if maybe maybe we got something here, because once Kyrie got traded, he said he was scorching teams.
Yeah, and I think the value's there for Brooklyn, because I think Brooklyn, for me, there's no real reason to not try and tear down the franchise. If you want to build around Mikal Bridges, great, go for it. But the rest of that roster, they're not going to contend for anything anytime soon. So why not just get value for Cam Johnson, which I think is good value. 3 first-round picks, 2 seconds, plus a young Zaire Williams and a serviceable backup big man. So I think the value's there for all 3 teams. So what do y'all think? What are y'all's thoughts?
Francis,
how you feeling, Brandon, about this?
How you feel?
Okay. Initial thoughts. Big fan of the return. For one, Cam Johnson, he's a guy who's been on my radar for a while. I think he'd be perfect for the Grizzlies. You think about 3 and D player who can just get hot from deep, hit shots anywhere on the floor when needed, has the length to defend the 1 to the 4. He's also, I think what's also great about Cam Johnson is that he's an older player. I think he's already like 27, 28, right? So
because he got drafted, I think, and that was one of the big criticisms of Phoenix when they took him. Is like, these dudes I think he was 23 at the draft and all that. And people were like, and people were like, why are you taking a guy this old, in the lottery? And and they felt like, oh, this is another. And that's just when Phoenix was still in like, oh, here's Phoenix doing another crazy thing, so he's definitely older, but. He's established himself as one of a really good high A role player.
Yeah, what I love about Cam Johnson is that he knows his role, he knows what he's capable of, and he doesn't deviate from it. You don't see him like taking silly shots. You don't see him trying to play out of himself. He just plays within himself because he's so seasoned. He's had multiple years in college, so I'm behind Alex Caruso as well. Just a elite defensive guard, one of the best defensive guards in the game right now.
All NBA first or second team?
Ooh, good question.
I know he was all NBA defense, but I'm trying to remember if he was first or second.
I want to say first. Not
I think
exactly
he was
sure.
first.
I mean, I only think the lineups. First. So like the lineups you can have with Ja, with Bane, having an elite perimeter defender next to them, be a seamless Dillon Brooks replacement. He'd be perfect. The issue that I have though, and I just get too sentimental about certain guys on the Grizzlies.
Right? Big day. Come on, bro. Listen, I got players like that undersized. Because listen, I'll quick story, not to get off track, but that's who I was as an undersized, big. Playing, and you have to just work for everything. That's why I appreciate guys like, I remember Jaron Sullinger. Like, I was like, I love Jaron Sullinger. Size and all guys like that, Big Baby Davis, all those type of guys. I've always appreciated. You guys have another big boy and Lofton. He's a big. That's get him versus Wemby. Game one. We see that rematch.
Yeah. Ready for that. Yeah, it's just like with David Roddy. I think he just showed you so much in his rookie season, right? He didn't have the greatest start, couldn't shoot very well, still finding his flow in the offense. But once he did, those 2 Dallas Mavericks games where he couldn't miss from 3, he could get inside, attack the rim with ease, use his strength and athleticism to bully guys in the paint. I think David Roddy's skill set is just so unique and leaves something. There's just so much untapped potential there, and I'm a huge potential guy. I don't want to give up on guys who have shown potential to be something potentially great in this league. I think David Roddy is that guy. And like you mentioned, Chris, David Roddy, he's a grinder. He's a worker. He's on that floor. He's giving it everything he's got, 100%, 110%, no matter what. Of course, yes, he's a rookie, so he's not quite ready to play in the playoffs yet. And we saw that during the Lakers series, right? He looked a little lost just because that's his first playoff series as an NBA player. And so it's tough for me personally to just give up on guys that quickly. I do understand the return. I mean, out Caruso and Cam Johnson are great players, but giving up on a guy like David Roddy and then I got to add in Xavier Tillman, man. What is so valuable about Xavier Tillman is that he has a team option it's upcoming this season for only $1.8 million. So regardless of whether or not the Grizzlies sign him to an extension or anything, you're getting $1.8 million for a player who has shown you in that Lakers series that he can effectively guard the 1-3-5. He has no problem being switched on to guards, wings, any kind of players. He was the defensive player of the year over at Michigan State when he was over there. So I think he just also has a lot of that. He feels like a Swiss Army knife role. He can do a lot of different things on the court, right? He's not the greatest like offensive creator, right? We saw that. Like he has some moves in the paint. He can finish very well, but like he can't do a lot of things on his own. But you think about going into next season, Brandon Clark Achilles injury, you're not going to have him. Steven Adams, we still don't know. They've said he'll be ready, but judging by last season, we don't know. Having a guy like Xavier Tillman in that front court, having a presence like that at only $1.8 million, that's incredible value. And I just don't think you should give up on that early. So I wouldn't put him as a sweetener, like in a deal, I just try and like hold him out of a deal. If they say like, okay, we need this guy for the trade to go through, sure. But like, I wouldn't offer him up in a deal, but I will say like the return, the framework of that trade, very well thought out. Kudos to you, Francis, for sure. But
thank you.
It's just those two guys, man.
Francis had that in the lab for like a week. He was
I swear,
smoking out like, all right, this is how the money's gonna work. The draft picks, we're gonna protect the 2049 pick. We're gonna do all this stuff. That Francis had that all worked up.
I don't even think I'm good at 3-team trades. That was one of the first 3-team trades that I really thought.
Those are tough to do. Even like
that one works.
It's very tough to pull off a 3-team trade.
That one was tough. I mean, I fully understand where you're coming from, Brandon, when in terms of the value of X, especially, and I know you're a big Roddy guy. Excuse me, I've been fighting a cough for about a week or so. But I think at the end of the day, if the Grizzlies are going to make a trade, any trade, it's going to have to involve Tyus Jones because he has the most value of a tradable contract, and he has the most value. Memphis isn't trading Desmond, Jaren, or Ja at all. They're not trading those 3 guys. So who's next? Who with value? It's Tyus Jones, and then it's C.R. Williams. Now, if you're going to trade for a big fish, you got to match cap, and the only way to match cap is filler players. And I'm not trying to say Roddy's a filler player or X is a filler player, but at those contracts, they are, because it's like $3 million here, 1.9 there, 3.7 for LaRavia, things like that. And that's when you have to make really the tough choices if the Grizzlies are going to make trades, because you kind of have to match cap if they're going to go for the big trade. So that's the issue. I mean, OG's contract that's why OG's just a hot name on the trade market, because his contract is much more reasonable where you don't have to match and fill so many things. He's on 2 years, 18.6 mil. So you can just do Zier and Tyus Jones and not have to give up Roddy, Laravia, X, insert another like Aldama. You don't have to give up these guys because the cap already matches. So I just, and at the end of the day, I feel like if what I offered, what I said to y'all is a realistic trade, and obviously I'm not an NBA GM, but if this is a real thing,
I mean, some of the NBA GMs shouldn't be NBA GMs either. So
that's true. That's fair. That's true. But if it comes down to like, do we hold on? Do we risk the future of David Roddy? And do we risk having X for another year on a good contract? I think the answer is yes. I think that you've got to do that. So that's just how I feel about the value of those guys that, as Grizzlies fans, we have become really attached to. But it's hard. I get it, but I think you've got to make those decisions.
But we all know the big but in this. Ja Morant. And the impending suspension. And let's say it's 40 games. Now if you do trade Tyus Jones, you have to worry about those four, because the season could go out of whack in those 40 games, and it's like, oh my god, now we got complete chaos. So is that something that they're gonna think about? Is like, Tyus Jones could be a value piece somewhere else, but he's maybe our most important player, this season at least for the first half of the season. If Ja Morant gets suspended for 40 games or whatever, even if it's 30 games, he's going to get suspended a large amount of games. We don't know how much, but look, it's going to be at minimum 30 games, right? I don't know how you guys feel, but that's just how I see it. I think it's at least 30 games. So is that something you're thinking about? It's like, we kind of, Tyus is maybe untouchable almost, unless you're getting another point guard in return, but then once Ja gets back, there's going to be a conflict. So, like, is that something that if you're a GM, that you're like, all right, man, we kind of can't move Tyus. We need him. He's the starting point guard right now.
I mean, I don't want to speak for Brandon at all. I just think for my perspective and other Grizzlies people's perspective, I think you still got to trade Tyus, because that's the only valuable contract to get an OG, to do any sign-in trade, to do any trade, to even move up in the draft. Like, he has the most value. And Ja's going to get suspended, but I really don't think he gets more than 30. That's probably his max. My gut says 20 to 25. I'm hoping for 15 to 20. And if that's the case, you miss the first 20 games of the season. And Ja's injury prone, knock on wood, he does get hurt. So he'll say he misses another 10 games. That means he plays still around 50 games. And if he's healthy for the playoffs, I think the Grizzlies can still cobble together at worst a 500 record without Ja Morant, even if they don't have Tyus Jones. I mean, it depends on the trade pieces, of course, who they draft, who they trade for, but the talent's still there. Jaren's too good. Desmond Bane is too good. Steven Adams hopefully is healthy. Zier, if they retain Zier, see what he can do. Luke Kennard is a 3-point threat, obviously. So I think the talent's still there to piece together a good record and wait for Ja to return. So I really hope, man, the Grizzlies do not operate on a basis of thinking that Tyus Jones is untouchable because Ja Morant's going to get suspended for X amount of games. I really hope not, because that limits the ceiling of this team, and it just means they're going to stand pat, because you have to include Tyus in a trade. Go ahead, Brandon. How do you feel?
Yeah, I've gravitated back and forth on this. I've said other things on different pods that I'm about to say right now, but introspected, thought long and hard. Tyus Jones needs to be shipped out. Just for, like you said, he is the most valuable asset going into a very important offseason for the Grizzlies. If you want to improve this roster, there's simply no way Tyus can remain on the roster because he's making over $17 million on an expiring contract, and so many teams are looking for a point guard replacement of some kind. So, like, this is just you got to sell.
Ask the Celtics. Ask the Celtics how life is without a point guard.
Yeah, Celtics how life is without a point guard. Like,
they have Tyus Jones there in the finals. Just even the Tyus Jones type they have in the finals.
Table setters are so important, and Tyus Jones, right? for all of his like faults, shooting the basketball at times,
of course,
he is a genuine table setter. Has led the league in assist to turnover ratio for about 3.
Isn't it like one of the highest in like NBA history? It's not just like the highest in the current. It's like one of the highest in NBA history.
All right, that dude could find a pass anywhere on the court, and
helped us win a national championship in 2015. I'm sorry, Brandon.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah, he's a winning player. Yeah, he's a winning player.
Helped my Duke Blue Devils to a chip.
Yeah, so like you just like you can't discount the fact that you have a very valuable asset on your roster that can potentially help you make those moves to get what you're looking for, regardless of Ja Morant's suspension. Like they can't forget that. And I hope they don't, but like, you know, there's still a part of me back in my mind, like we know this front office, right? We know, like they hate this idea of like, they hate this idea of like risk taking. They play it safe.
I can't stand, I'm a Knicks, and Knicks, I feel the same way. It's very too safe. And sometimes you gotta be that Masai Ujiri and make that move and risk it. You have to, or else you're just going to be and then you're like, it's going to be in a couple more years. And you're like, oh, we should have, really should have just pulled the trigger on that trade, because now we're back and now we got to restart and all that. So yeah, I'm with you with that. And then you guys, and like I said, I thought it's like, Tyus might be in, but you guys made good points and all that made me think differently about this. Like, if there's a couple more pieces there that we're going to say, we might lose draw for if it's 30, even if it's 40 games, if we got to trade Tyus to get another piece, that when Ja does come back, he has, whether it's OG, whether it's whoever, now we can really make that late. And as we've seen, like, if we're the 7 seed, 8 seed, we just saw it 8 seed made the finals. The Lakers were the 7 seed, just made the conference finals. So we just got to be in it.
We just got to be there. That was I was literally just about to make that point. I mean, we have evidence of, excuse me. Now, of course, the regular season, it matters. It's still important.
Yeah, of course.
But it's important for different reasons than just seeding. It's important to build continuity, to build time together, to build familiarity. And to me, it's what's the most important. In terms of seeding, as you saw with LeBron and LA and AD, when they got healthy, they were really damn good. Really good.
You guys weren't.
I've said it for a while.
You guys weren't.
And that's a difference. That's a difference in today's NBA. The healthiest teams are the most successful in the playoffs. Point blank.
The NBA champions were the healthiest team.
Man. I've been saying it for years. It's not that complicated. Healthiest team wins a title. 100%. And that's what it's about. So if you're the 8 seed, 7 seed, who cares? So with Ja Morant, like I said, I think the Grizzlies have enough talent to piece together, to stay above water when he's out. And so when he's back, they go 10 games over 500, and that makes them like the 5th seed in the West. And you're the 5th seed in the West, and you go from there. Like it doesn't really matter to me. I'll take it back. It doesn't matter to me what the suspension is, because I care about the stuff. But like, no matter what it is, I don't think the Grizzlies will be hugely negatively affected, depending on what they do in the offseason. And hey, if they do a trade like my trade had Alex Caruso, a point guard included, if that's an option, go for it. Because now all the discussions about Ja, now he's going to be out for 30 games. There's no point guard. Well, they just traded for a point guard. I mean, what are we doing? And hell, and maybe even the Grizzlies. I don't know what the Grizzlies' plan is for the trade. We're going to talk, draft. We're going to talk draft in a moment. But say they move up in the lottery and they get a Nick Smith Jr. They get an Anthony Black. They get a point guard. They draft. Who knows?
I think if they're trading up, I have a name, and I think that's
okay.
I got a name.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry. But that's how I feel about the Tyus stuff. Yeah.
No, I definitely understand that more from your guys' point of view. Is like, hey, we can't let this stop us from making a move, just because he's our point guard right now, and whatever suspension Ja gets. So I definitely understand. Like I said, I like teams that go for it. Like Francis, we talked about Cleveland, right? And even though my Knicks took them down to 5, so that was cool and all that. But we talked about them going after Donovan Mitchell, and I like teams that make the Cavs haven't made the play. They never make the playoffs without LeBron, right? In the LeBron era and all that, they make a move. They got some young pieces. enough young pieces to trade to go make the Mitch move without giving up a lot of their big high end players. So, yeah, they still got moves, obviously things to do to get better, but they made that move, and I was all with it. Like, yeah, go do that. And I feel like Orlando's a team that could be that Cleveland Cavaliers that could, and they got two high end, two top 11 picks, two top 12 picks to do that, to potentially make a splash and all that. But like you said, the draft and all that. You guys have 3 picks in this class. I think you got 25, 56, and 45, I believe, if I'm correct. Yeah, 25, 45, and 56. So you got 3 picks in this draft. I'm heavy into the draft. I just did my mock. I'll give you guys names that I did in my latest mock. I have a guy who fits in perfectly with you guys. This is without trades and all that. Andre Jackson Jr. to me, the kid from UConn. You just filling in right in that Dylan Brooks role, minus the antics and all that. You get someone who's a defender, is athletic, just knows how to do the little stuff, and a big reason why UConn went on to win the national championship. The shooting needs to get better and all that, but I feel like that could come a little bit, and he could be a respecter shooter. In round 2, I had you guys taking Ricky Council, which I think is an athletic wing. Just get another athletic guy and all that. And also Seth Lundy, just a smart player from Penn State and all that. So those are 3 guys. But, I don't know how deep in the draft you guys you get. But what are some names, if you're staying put, like you said, Francis, potentially maybe trying to trade up and all that. And I think there's a certain point guard. And I'll tell you, I think if they do try to trade up, which I don't think they're going to use all 3 picks. You guys are trying to win. So, but I think if it is a trade up, I think it's probably for like a Jalen Hood-Schifino type.
I knew you were going to say him. Yeah.
That's my guy.
I knew you were going to say him.
I love Jalen Hood-Schifino.
I knew you were going to say him.
I think if that's a guy you're targeting, that's someone that you could potentially get, or like a Kobe Buffkin, who I really like a lot, who could play on and off the ball and all that. No pun intended, off the ball. That's why it's called Off the Ball Podcast, people. It's research. Do your market research, guys.
I get it.
Market research. Hey, man, a lot of studying before I did the podcast, So, but like a Kobe Buffkin, that type of guard who could play, both positions, effectively too. Not just, someone that like they don't have the ball in the hand, they could be able to move, or even like a Jordan Hawkins type of someone that, but like I feel like one of those guys. But are there names in the draft that you're seeing, especially late in the first, that you would like I said, trade ups, with the picks? Because like I said, you're probably not going to use all 3 picks. You're probably going to try to move up or something, or trade for a player. But are there any names in the draft that you're liking in that late first, or the potential trade up? Brandon,
we're assuming. Okay, so are we assuming no trade up? Is that?
But you could do both. If whoever you're liking at late first, or if you're thinking that a player that they're looking at, if they are going to try to trade up.
Okay, yeah. So, assuming they stay at 25, one guy that I really love for the Grizzlies, have loved from day one, is Chris Murray out of Iowa. I'll start off by saying, in this draft, in my personal opinion, I think the Grizzlies should be targeting a wing, like
100%.
Like Anthony Sane, huge, great Memphis media.
Shout out Sane.
Shout out Sane, who we work with at Bluff City Media. He's talked about it. Ever since the days of Rudy Gay, the Grizzlies have been searching into the abyss for a long-term starting small forward.
Shout out Jeff Green. Shout out Chandler Parsons.
That's kind of why they took Zaire Williams, right? That was the intention. We got this potentially could be our wing of the future. He's still developing and all that. We'll see what happens. But yeah, they definitely been looking.
Absolutely. And they've been searching for that ever since. And in this draft, this is one of the most loaded wing drafts of all time. Really.
Brandon, there's going to be wings that are first round picks. They have first round talent, and you're going to get in the 40s. It's crazy how deep at the wing position it is.
No, absolutely. And so that's why I think should be at the forefront of the prospect. So going into that, I veered off a little bit there, but Chris Murray, out of Iowa, he is a polished, just all around polished player, just long, athletic, can get to the rim, has a very nice handle, can create his own shot, I think it's easy for people to say like, yeah, Chris Murray is just like a carbon copy of Keegan, but like having watched this guy play, he isn't. He is not the shooter that Keegan is coming into the league, but I think he is a better offensive creator than Keegan in a lot of ways. He can attack the rim. He can hit the mid range. Like he can get to his own. He can get to his own spots on the floor, on the handle. He can play on and off ball. He's very versatile, very polished defender too. So that's the guy who is like
good defender, like you mentioned. Good defender also.
Yeah, like he's the guy. Number one, he's on the board. I'm picking him there. Number two, Gigi Jackson out of South Carolina. Just a really big athletic, polished scorer as well. The defense needs work. It was
Brandon. The defense needs a lot of work.
I was going to say nothing.
A lot of work. And I'm the biggest GG guy. Even I was like, oh, I can't defend that.
Multiple plays.
But for not to cut you off, but like for Gigi, 17 years old, supposed to be this should be his freshman season of college. Playing for a South Carolina team, not so good. So I tell people that I get mad at they try to like, you know, they really get negative with his like effort. And listen, after this should have been a little bit more effort, but understand he's 17 years old. You know, he's supposed to be in high school and all that. He's 17 years old. So just think about us when we were 17. You know, he's the face of a college program. There's a lot of pressure. He's playing in the SEC. You know, big time conference, playing big time basketball and all that. So like I try to people put yourself as a 17-year-old, but now you're the face of the organization, you're the face of the college program, and now you're the best player. You don't really have a lot of NBA players with you and all that. So like I gotta tell people like, you know, there was some things he needs to get better as far as body language and all that, but you know, just put your perspective. He's the youngest kid in the draft.
Yeah. So like most definitely, you know, if you pick him, you're going more in the direction of a project, right? Like he's kind of like
you're buying the upside.
The upside. Yeah, you're swinging for the fences there, and like having already taken Zaire, that's gonna give people some pause, you know. Last guy I want to mention in that range is Leonard Miller of G League Ignite, from Canada. Also just, you know, polished player, polished scorer. You know, he's played against NBA level talent, 6'11", 70 wingspan, can really score pretty much anywhere on the floor. Perimeter game does need a little bit of cleaning up, but this guy projects to be a versatile Swiss Army knife kind of player at the next level. Like he scored like 33 points with 11 rebounds, 3 3-pointers made in a game. So like that's he can finish either side of the rim too. Defense is like pretty good as well. So I love Leonard.
You're definitely going to get that. If you don't get the offense, you're definitely going to get the defense at minimum.
Yes. I just love the upside there. And then last guy I'll mention, if they trade up, the guy that I have my eyes on is Victor Wembanyama's partner in crime.
Bilal.
Coulibaly. Yeah, man. He's definitely a lot of buzz.
Yeah, because like he's 19 years old, but his game is just so mature. I think what stood out to me is his passing. He can be that secondary playmaker on the floor. He can use his length and finish either side of the rim. Also, not really a shooter, but can do pretty much everything else at a really near level. Just really high IQ. You know, like for 19 years old, playing against professional players. Like I saw the game that they played in to make the finals. Like he single-handedly, like pretty much won in that game because he took over on both sides of the floor, made the right passes, get his own bucket. So if they trade up, that's the guy who's at the forefront of my mind for them. But those are like the prospects I've done deep dive into.
Yeah, and that was a game too where we all know about Victor, but that was a game that was penciled in because everybody's like, "Yo, we know about Victor. We're here to watch you, Blah. Let's see what you could do." And he showed out and I think he had like 20 points or whatever. Had a really good game. But like you mentioned, he's someone that defensively he's going to get to the basket. Defensively, he's going to bring it and all that. And like I said, there's offensive potential there too. So that's someone that, you know, it would be a good fit for you guys Francis, any guys that you're liking, for Memphis for this draft?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Brandon said. I've got a draft profile on Derek Whitehead coming out probably like a week or so. So he's such a. My worry is that, worry might be too strong of a word. I guess a concern is he obviously injuries, his health, that he just never really sees time on an NBA court because he can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
But there's so much upside for him and his talent that he could be like a Michael Porter Jr. type situation where MPJ coming out of college, we knew how good he was in high school. We know how talented he is, but it was the medicals, it was the injuries, it was the issue. We just didn't know. And there's a chance that if Memphis took a swing on Derek Whitehead, like Denver took a swing with MPJ, they've reaped the benefits of that. Obviously, they've won a title, so who knows? It's there's a possibility there. He's one of the most ultimate boomer bust guys in the draft. So he's someone that I'm just interested.
He could shoot too. He can shoot.
He can shoot.
He can shoot.
Watch
the high school tape. I tell people with Derek that, all right, they're like, oh, and same thing you mentioned, the injuries, and they didn't see the explosiveness. And I was like, this is why with some prospects, you got to go back to the high school tape. Because if you see some of that first step and that explosiveness. Yeah, he still has to work on finishing at the rim, but when he's healthy and he's right, and like you said, Michael Porter is perfect. And like I even say this with Brandon, with Gigi, it's kind of similar, like how you want to develop them, right? Yeah. These are guys that were top prospects, top high school recruits coming out and all that. And now, dealing with injuries or rather just poor play and all that. Now they're going to drop in the draft. These are players that, if you develop the way we saw Denver did, force them into that role, let them slowly develop. And then eventually, I think that's the route to go. But like with Derek, the health is a thing. He just had the second foot surgery and all that. But if you get him late in that 25th pick, now you guys could just, hey, we're going to let you do your thing and relax and let develop you and then you can get yourself in a year or two, get yourself a good player.
It obviously depends on.
You got it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Whitehead in high school like one of the top 3 players in the class, if not for the injuries, like projected to go in the top 5 in this draft?
I had a lot of the scouts I talked to and all that, they had him as the 3rd guy. We all know it was Wemby and Scoot, and everyone had a different 3. But I remember a majority of people I talked to were like, "Yeah, I think Derek's the 3rd guy."
Yeah.
And imagine getting the 3rd guy at 25.
Yeah.
McDonald. He played at a very Mount Vernon and all that. Like I said, you watch the tape in high school and you're just like, wow. You're just like, wow. You see the shooting and you see some of that athleticism. You didn't see none of that. You didn't see the athletic ability that dude. He was able to get to the basket and all that. He just obviously in college is obviously a lot different too. And that's the other thing. A lot of people, I think, try to tell a lot of people is like, all right, high school is more of what you're going to play like in the NBA. It's more going to be a more open space, and in college, everything is just like this. So you're not going to be able to see a lot of things. That's why how many times we hear through the draft process, this guy's killing. Like we'll go to workouts. You're like, wait, I didn't hear about that guy in college, but then he's playing in a more free, open system, and the combine and all that, playing with other good players too. And it's like, whoa, where did this guy come from? He wasn't doing much. He shot 39%, and all that, and now he shows out and all that. So that's the thing with Derek is. You got to look at some of the high school tape and be like, all right, if he's healthy, that's what I'm getting. Yeah, and that's how you got to kind of look at it.
It just depends on obviously who's available at 25. If the Grizzlies don't trade up, you got to see who's there. If Chris Murray's there, I'm with Brandon. Draft him. I would love to have Chris Murray. So it really just depends on who's there. So if all those guys are gone that Brandon's mentioned before, and Derek Whitehead's there. I think you go for it. I really think you go for it. If he's the best player available for that moment, I think you'd go for it. A guy if they trade up that I would be really fascinated in, obviously Bilal, like you mentioned. Grady Dick would be fascinating too. He's an absolute. He's got a clip. He can shoot.
He feels like a Grizzly. He feels like a Grizzly.
He plays hard. He plays with passion. He plays with energy. And maybe they channeled their former Mike Wallace, because Mike Wallace, former Grizzlies GM, was had a thing for Kansas dudes. Like drafted Xavier Henry, got Darrell Arthur. He loved the Kansas dudes. Wow. Man. he loved him. So maybe we go back to it because we're in a Michigan State phase. We're loving Michigan State guys. Maybe we go back to our Kansas days and get a Kansas guy. Who knows?
Right.
But I think Grady Dick would be a good guy. I think to have. He'd slot in really well. He can shoot, and he has a higher defensive upside too. So I think it'd be a great guy if they traded up. So yeah, those are my two suggestions along with what Brady said.
Yeah, no, and I mean to be able, I would always try to mock Chris Murray there, but the Kings have the pick before, and it's just too easy. We got
too easy.
And I honestly feel like I know it could be can maybe lazy, but I'm like, if you're the Kings at 24 and Chris Murray's there, how do you not take him?
Yeah.
Like, first of all, it's a fit. Like, you could use another shooter and all that, and like, why not pair him with your brother to make your top 5 pick from the year before feel a lot better? Now he has that comfort with his twin brother, and we've seen twins. The Morris brothers. The Martin twins. They were playing together in Charlotte, so we've seen that. So I'm like, I seen all. I was like, I don't want to be that guy. Oh, I'm not gonna do this because no. We put Chris Murray there, but
and imagine the Kings with more shooting. Whoo-wee, man. That ball's gonna be flying around. They're popping from the parking lot. Man, that offense would be crazy.
That offense. I mean, their run was pretty impressive too. Like, they've been in mockery. Like I always said, they're what people think the Knicks are. The Knicks stick with. I'm like, we've been bad, but like the Kings haven't made the playoffs since 2006, guys. Like, at least we made the playoffs a few times. It's like it's been bad for them.
Special feature.
It was a great run, and I think this is real. I think they're legit. I don't think this is just like a one and done thing. I think they're here and all that. So let's get into more. We talked a lot about Memphis and all that. Let's get into the NBA season's over, which is kind of sad, right, guys? This NBA season's over.
Do you have like a sad sound? You have a sad sound?
I do. Francis, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got one? This one's for the NBA
season. It's over. This NBA season is officially over. The Denver Nuggets, world champions. Miami Heat, tremendous run. That. Sorry, Mo. Sorry, Mo. Sorry, man. Mo's had some sad. Ohio State lost because there's idiot kicker just kicked it to the popcorn guy and the left gate,
and then they lost Michigan again.
Then they lost to Michigan. I didn't hear from Mo from it felt like 6 weeks. I didn't hear from Mo.
What a shame. That you hate to see it. See it. Unless you're me, who fucking loves to see it. Sorry to curse on the pod.
Francis was in his glory. Hey, Michigan. They got a squad too this year. Michigan. They got this. They got a squad in Michigan and all that. But NBA season's over and all that. And obviously, we're now in trade rumors. We just heard Bradley Beal's on the market. We're hearing Dame Lillard. Let's get into Dame because Dame annoys me.
Dang.
Because we know the whole loyalty stuff, and that's cool, right? It's cute. It's all that. But there comes a point. It's cute. It's like, all right, cool. We get it, bro. You want to be that guy, but it's like at one point, I feel like the organization is like held at gunpoint right now. I think they want to rebuild.
Yeah,
I think they 100% want to rebuild and start because it's just like, all right, God, like, Dame, come on, man. Come on, man. Like, we're going to keep maybe a playing team. Like, we're going to go trade for some random, third, fourth tier guy and maybe make a play in. Like, are we just going to keep? Yeah, it's like we have an opportunity with the third pick, to get Scoot or Brandon Miller, and especially if Scoot's at 3, which I think is a mistake, in my opinion. If he drops 3, I'm like, you're making a mistake. And I have a trade.
I agree.
I have a massive trade that I would do if I'm Charlotte. Okay. But I'll get onto that. But if you're the GM of the Portland Trail Blazers, what's the conversation you need to have with Dame? Like, what are you going to talk to Dame? Let's mind you, he's telling you, I want to stay, but what are you telling him? He no trade. He doesn't have a no trade like Brad. Somehow Bradley Beal got a no trade clause in his deal. But what are you telling Dame, Brandon? What are you telling Dame right now? If you're the GM of the Trailblazers, what are you telling him? Honest thing. You got it straight up with him.
First, I want to ask Damian Lillard, like what do you want? You know, like what do you want at this stage of your career? Like, I got to tell Damian Lillard, like, you need to look at reality, right? Like, look at our roster, like look at who we have. Like, realistically, even with the third pick, who could we get that makes us a championship? Even gets us in the bubble for a championship. Like, who realistic? I've heard Brandon Ingram. I've heard Jaylen Brown. Right. I've heard Bradley Beal. Right. Like, is us, we the Trailblazers, like, is us getting any of those guys going to even like bring us in that championship bubble? And so I say, Dame, like, face reality. And if that answer is no, get on up out of here so we can stockpile some assets and build our team the right way. And so we can both be happy. You know, at the end of the day, like, we both want to be happy. So let's just make each other happy and move on and get what we want out of this league.
I'm with you on that. Francis, GM Francis, what are you telling Dame? Like, hey, yo, come on, bro. Come on.
I mean, look, I if I were the GM, I'd take the same route as Brandon, but let me be evil Francis. I would tell Dame, get out of here. Bye. We're done. We're not.
You're not even a Nike guy. You're a Adidas guy. Get out of here.
I'll tell him. I'll tell Damian Lillard. I will tell Dame to his face, like, we're trading you. We're not doing this anymore. We thank you for your service. We thank you for your time. But that's it, man. You know, we were not going anywhere.
Why are they afraid, though? Why do you think they're like? Why? Because this makes sense. To, like, I think it's time. Like, why are they?
It's the loyalty thing. There's no question. Yeah. He played his whole career there. He's meant so much to the fans. They've said it multiple times that they'll trade Dame where Dame wants to go. Like, they really care about.
Which is fair. Which is fair.
Fair. Like, it's loyalty. Like, look, franchises have built reputations on how they treat their stars.
Yes.
And Portland, being a smaller NBA market, not a great free agency destination, they have to hang their hat on how they treat their star players. They have to, because otherwise, how are they going to attract stars to want to come play in Portland for in one day, whenever that day comes? So they really honed their hat on loyalty and treating Dame as well as they can. Their issue is they've done a crappy job at doing their job at building a team around Damian Lillard. They've done a bad job at that. And that's their fault. But now they have to sleep in the bed they made themselves and just trade Damian Lillard and get pieces. So I'm a nice guy, so I would do what Brandon did. I would ask Dame what he wants. But if I were to put my evil hat on, I'd be like, nah, Dame, thank you. Good luck on wherever you go next. Bye. And also, by the way, it's been a pain in the butt to try and trade $45 million. It's been, but bye. Like that. So that's what I would say.
Or Francis, what if we did build the right team and you're just not that guy?
I mean,
could that be the case too? Like, hey, guy, like we put some good players around you. Maybe you're just not that number one option. Like, there's not a lot of those guys in the league, but maybe you're better as a two.
I would say, well, sure. At this point in the career, probably, arguably, yes. But I would hesitate to say, like, 5 years ago, that Dame wasn't that guy to bring Portland to another level. The point is, Portland built their roster around Damian Lillard, and this backcourt partner was a guy who was the same height as him. Maybe even shorter. I don't know how tall CJ McCollum is. Probably the same height. So neither of them 6'2", can defend. So his backcourt partner was a dude the same height who couldn't defend, and then they had bigs who couldn't defend. They had Yusuf Nurkic, and they didn't have wings.
That's putting it nicely.
Their best. I'm really trying to go through my basketball Rolodex in my head. Who is Portland's best wing to play with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum? And
Al-Farouq Aminu.
Thank you. You're probably right.
Al-Farouq Aminu just got a shout out.
Yeah. You're probably right, and that was the issue with the Portland Trailblazers. It wasn't
Cam Reddish.
Dame.
Cam Reddish. Knicks fans wanted him for Julius Randle. They want him back in New York.
But that was the issue with Portland. I feel 4 or 5 years ago, that wasn't on Dame. he was a great player, top 10 player in the NBA, and you need those guys to win a title, and they had him. They just did a horrible job building properly around Damian Lillard, a terrible job. So now we got to rebuild, and they have to look to the future. And like I've been trying to think of trades for Dame. You know, he wants to go to Miami. Miami want Dame, all this stuff. Other teams that might really need a point guard. Chicago, like I mentioned before, they need a point guard pretty bad. But the issue is how much money he's making. Like I said, when you trade a guy, you got to match cap or at least find a way to come close. And it's damn near impossible, like especially if you're in Miami. So like looking at Miami's salary cap, they've got Jimmy on $45 million for the next 3 years, Bam on 32.6 for the next 3 years. They still have Kyle Lowry's contract for one more year of 29.6. They're paying Tyler Hero 27 mil for 4 years. Like that's a lot. So it's like it's hard. Miami, they'd have to do something special to
what
get
about Tyler Hero?
Lillard.
Tyler Hero and somebody else. If Tyler Hero was a centerpiece of a package for Damian Lillard, would you at least think about that?
I don't.
What are pieces that would Portland would be like? Yeah, this is a good return. That's the thing with the Miami thing. It would probably have
Miami
to be like
doesn't
a
have
3-team
picks.
deal. They have no picks.
They have some picks. They have their first round pick this year. And then the next one they could trade is 2027 because they traded 2025. So they can't trade 2026 because of the Stepien rule.
Yeah.
So like it's hard. Like I was really trying to juggle my brain and try and figure this out, but like it's difficult to try and figure out a good Dame trade because he makes so much money, and the teams that want him they have already too much cap on their salaries. So do y'all have a Dame trade, Chris, Brandon? I've struggled.
It's hard.
It's hard. All that comes to my mind is somehow like Tyler Hero and some salary filler.
Yeah.
If you want
but if you're Portland, you're just like,
Yes.
You know, I think Portland wants to just scrap it from the bone. Like they just want to, you know, and the Dame stuff, the contract's going to make it hard to do that unless you're getting, I think you might have to go talk to teams who have expirings. And so that they can come off the books this year and then get the picks. I think they more care about the picks and all that. So you're going to have to find something like that. But Miami's picks won't really move the needle and all that. So they're in a tough situation. I think he's just going to stay. I thought he was going to get traded and all. We're going to see Dame Lillard rocking 0 in Portland again. And it's just going to be the same old thing. And it's kind of crazy. But Bradley Beal. Go, Brandon.
Tyler Hero, Victor Oladipo, who has a player option, right? A player option next season. Then after that, off the books, Caleb Martin, Damian Lillard, pick first, second.
I don't know, man. I just don't know. Miami would have to trade every first they can possibly trade, which I think is just 3. So you're getting 3 first-round picks, Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin, Oladipo is on expiring. And I feel like if they trade Dame, they're going to trade Jeremy Grant too, because why hold on to Jeremy Grant? Like they have to enter a full-out rebuild, which, I mean, I think that's what they want to do. And, you know, hell, Jeremy Grant isn't a bad target for Memphis. So, but even then, Jeremy Grant makes a lot of money. Point being,
he's unrestricted.
Right. Your framework, your structure, Brandon, it's there. It's just a matter of if Portland's willing to accept kind of a meh. I mean, it's meh. Like it's just a meh offer.
But Dame would have to say, like, I want to go to Miami. Like, can you please?
Unless he just say, unless it's like, you know what, you've been good to us.
Yeah,
we'll do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're Miami now, you're gonna get someone who's make $63 million in a few years. And then you got Jimmy. Like Jimmy's been great, but he's also getting older. So like, are you gonna? And then you're gonna have to pay Jimmy. So it's like, this is tough. This is tough.
It's hard. It's genuinely hard.
It's hard
to try to figure out
these salaries are crazy. Dame's good. He signed an extension, right? 2 years and $7 billion. I think that was the deal. It's just it's NBA contracts are going to get up. Like we mentioned before, we talked about like NBA contracts are going to get insane. Like we thought the boom of what 16, 17, that boom where we're seeing Mozgov getting $80 million. Like we're going to be seeing stuff like that. Oh, like we're going to see $300 million contracts very like soon. With all these escalators and these guys' contracts and all that. All NBA stuff, but like you got to look at your team. You're like, are we going to invest $120 million in 2 players? Yeah, those are some things.
I mean, point blank. That's yeah.
You're gonna,
same with Boston.
You got to, it's gonna be crazy. So let's go to Mr. Bradley Beal, another guy who signed a $8 billion contract, and with the no trade clause, which is crazy. LeBron don't have a no trade clause. Kevin Durant don't have a no trade clause. Jokic don't have a no.
Like we gotta have a no trade.
It's like he had a gun to their head and said, "I want everything.
Yeah, I want everything.
Everything in 2K you can do. I want it." You know how in 2K you put the no trade clause, so you can sign a free agent. And you put the options later and they take it off. He's like, "I want that. Give me that," and he got it. And then what's crazy? I guarantee you guys, the Wizards were like, we don't want to do this. But if we don't do this, we're going to be really, really bad. Really, really, really bad. And we can't sell sell this product to our fans. We got no one. We just got Kyle Kuzma and that's it. And the injured Porzingis. Even though they played solid this year, it's like you can't run with that. And even though Beal wound up being hurt for the majority of the year. So, I think we just created a new segment. You're the GM. GM Random.
Hey,
Brad's in the office. What are you saying to him?
I say, Bradley Beal, thank you for your service to Washington, D.C.
I think the train station's right there.
I think the train station's that way. Thank you. Good night. Where do you want to go? First, I ask him, where do you want to go so we can erase this no trade clause? But then, we'll drive you to the train station, get on up out of here.
$251 million.
You can't do anything. You can't build anything with that. And it's worse. It's worse because Bradley Beal, he's not a one in this league. He's just not. He's not a gifted playmaker. He's a gifted scorer, but not a gifted playmaker. Tables. He's a bucket, but he's not a guy that sets up shots for others. So I don't think he functions as a one in this league, but he can be a great 2 on a contention team.
I take him at the 2.
I take him at the 2. I'd take him as a 2. This is a guy who, led the league in scoring, a few seasons. He's a bucket. So I just don't know. I don't know what team is going to take on that money. I don't know I think it's even harder.
He controls everything too. Like the trade, what's in the trade. He'd be like, nah, I don't want to get traded for that.
Yeah, it's even harder than Dame because he's making more money than Dame. Contract is longer than Dame's, and he's not like a certified guy who we see as a number 1 in the NBA. So that's an even harder contract to move.
The contract just started. The contract just started. And the Wizards are like, damn, we messed up, man. Oh man, they have 1, 2, 3 more control, and he has a player option. His last year, and it's for $57 million. I expect he's not going to be that type of player, so he's probably going to accept because he's already on the decline.
Yeah,
so we can imagine Brad Beal in 4 more years.
I don't know. I don't know where. I don't know. I saw on Twitter today, Boston, because Bradley Beal and Jason Tatum, they have
St. Louis.
Oh, St. Louis connection. Okay.
St. Louis connection, but that would mean Brown. No, Brown leaves. Are we sure?
I don't believe in those anymore. Everybody said Kevin Durant might go to Washington because he's from the DMV area, and he was like, "Nah, I'm not going. I'm good. I'm all right. I'm gonna go to the Warriors.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm glad I'm not the
GM. I said, friends, before we go, I remember asking a few people what's the worst GM job right now? And it's easy to say the bad teams, But like, I actually would like to be the GM of like the Spurs or like Detroit.
Charlotte.
I think that would actually be those teams are maybe descending.
Yeah, assets.
I think the Wizards might be the worst GM job because you got your big three are a big three. They're like, we might have to pay Kyle Kuzma $100+ million.
Yeah,
we might have to, and no, KP just opted, but we might have to extend KP and give him $200 million next season, just because we have to. Because if we can't, can't lose him. So like, we might be forced to sign some really. You just signed one really bad contract. You might have to sign two more, just to be maybe a play-in team. That's really awful. That's to me that's the worst GM job right now. I would not want to be the Wizard GM.
Brand new GM too, if I remember correctly.
They wiped clean the whole they got a whole new. So like, good luck. Good luck. Yeah. Good luck.
I mean, you want to talk about a team with no direction? It's the Washington Wizards. There's just no there's no plan there, at least that any of us can see. Maybe the actual GM has a plan. I hope he has a plan, but from my perspective, I don't see a plan. It makes no sense what they're actually trying to get accomplished here. But all right, so here's a little something for a Brad Beal trade.
Okay,
let's trade him to Dallas for Kyrie, and the money matches. Kyrie's gonna get an extension. So they'd have to do a sign-and trade. And I don't know if Kyrie would agree to a sign-and trade, but and he probably won't. He probably wouldn't agree to a sign-and trade to Washington. But I mean, of all the teams out there that could use a Bradley Beal, you put him next to Luka. There's something there. And if I'm Bradley Beal, that's probably your best chance to contend is a play with Luka Doncic. So if I'm Bradley, I 100% waive my no trade clause. If I'm Dallas, I do it in a heartbeat because you have a Kyrie replacement. So you didn't lose Kyrie for quote unquote nothing because this season was a failure. So if I'm Dallas, I would do it. If now it's a matter of Kyrie because he like I said, you'd have to sign a trade. He'd have to agree to get traded to go to Washington. So who knows? He probably says no. But I don't know. I agree with everything you said, Brandon, about how hard it is to trade Beal and Chris. I fully agree. That's why I was just thinking as y'all were talking, what is probably the best for the other team too, as going through like a nightmare scenario with a certain player that's making a lot of money. I was like, oh, Kyrie and Dallas. There's a team that's going through a nightmare scenario with a player making a lot of money.
You can make the most money in Dallas, right? That's an advantage.
Exactly.
That's the big thing. He's gonna get that extra. He's getting that extra year. Yeah.
Yep. So it reminded me of Washington had the John Wall thing. So they traded John Wall for Russell Westbrook because they were two disgruntled players making a crap ton amount of money, hence trade. So I mean it was a weird trade, but that's what happened. Two players who didn't want to be where they were. One team didn't want John Wall. Houston was like, we don't really want you anymore, Russ either. Boom, trade. So I'm just saying this is what came off the top of my head.
Yeah. You know what's crazy about the NBA? It's like, Bradley Beal was an all-star level player, all NBA, and it just that dip, like that's why you got to appreciate LeBron James and what he's doing, because like that doesn't happen. Yeah. You don't get to end like Carmelo Anthony retired and didn't play in the NBA this year. Mm-hmm. Like Dwayne Wade's is in the Hall of Fame already. Like it's been 5 years, and LeBron James is still playing at an all NBA level. Like that dip is crazy for a lot of players, and it happens. Sometimes you see the gradual decline, but then sometimes the cliff, and it's just like whoa. And Beal could be that, and it's like if you trade for him, what if that dip happens? We already saw it the last few years. So if you trade for him, you better. And that's why I think Miami might be the only option because of just how like it feels like guys get their founding youth down here and just it's Florida, because so that's another one where it's just hard. It's hard, but we'll see. All right, you guys have been great so far, but I want a few more things before I let you guys go. You guys have been great. Brandon, Francis, tremendous. This has been such a fun show and all that. We're gonna talk about my New York Knicks. I want to get you guys. I love talking about the Knicks without people who aren't Knicks fans, because I love the perspective of someone who's not a fan and all that. Obviously, the season they had this season, I didn't expect it. Francis, we did the preview show. I even said, out of all the teams, I had the lowest, like I messed up on. It was my team, the Knicks, and all that. I messed up on the prediction. Like I had everything. I was like, I thought the Knicks would be a play-in team, and but getting better and all that.
Yeah.
They lose to. They had a great. Brunson had a great season. Randall, regardless of how much New Yorkers hate Julius Randle, he still made his second All NBA team as a New York Knick, guys. You know, so sorry about what did I just do, man. My finger just clipped everything.
You got too excited.
I got so excited, man. You know, I love
excited. You love Julius Randle.
I love that 16 points per game in the playoffs, baby. 38% and all that.
You love a poor man's Jimmy Butler.
I love yeah. Oh man, I still can't get over that. I still can't get over. But you know, he had the ankle injury. I'll use that as an excuse. But
there it is.
Brunson obviously played out of his mind this year. Like he probably should have been All-Star, maybe should have been All NBA and all that.
Should have been All-Star.
Should have All-Star at minimum on All-Star.
Yeah, absolutely.
So looking from the outside, from your perspectives, and I try to be as whatever that word is. I'm trying to think of, you know, as pragmatic? A fan. Yeah, try to be like that as a fan. Try to be as realist as possible. Like, just not use my fan cap and all that. What is? Do you think the Knicks, because they have assets, because they have a lot of picks and all that, do you think they need to make a splash? Do they have to go for that star? You constantly hear the Knicks need to get a star. Knicks need to get a star. Knicks need a star. Do you really think they need to get a star? And is there even a star available? Like, and it also depends on what your definition of a star is.
Sure.
Because we have star names, but as we just mentioned, Bradley Beal, he's not the Bradley Beal that was averaging 33 points a game a few years ago. So what do you think? Do the Knicks need to go after that star, or should they just continue to go the path they're going, or the way they've been going last year, just continue to develop it, or like Brandon, like you said with Memphis, hey, nah, we need to go take some risk and go make something happen. Francis?
I mean, I think I have a close friend of mine out here in San Diego, Dave Stieglitz. Shout out to my friend Dave. He's from New York, big Yankees fan, big Knicks fan. We hang out a bunch, play golf all the time. And we talk every time we play golf. He wears a Knicks hat every time we play golf. So I mean, it's clear he's a New York sports fan through and through.
We're all over the place, man. You can't get
for sure. And I've talked about the Knicks a lot. And I'm like, look, this is their ceiling. Like, this is about as good as they can be, probably ever. I don't really see him getting much better than a first round win and then a second round exit with this current roster the way it's constructed. That's not the middle, so it's different than, I say this all the time. The worst place in sports is the middle. They're not in the middle. They're a good team. They're a good team. But they're not great, and they're, especially in the East, where the top of the East is loaded, as we're all well aware of. It's a loaded top of the East. They're just not the gap between them and the top of the East. It's a large gap. Yeah. Now, would a trade lessen that gap enough to make the trade worth it? I don't know, because you look at who the Knicks could use, who they could need. I think about a DeMar DeRozan from Chicago, because again, Chicago trying to build around Zach LaVine. There's a lot of rumors about DeMar. I think that would be interesting because you got Brunson, Randall, DeMar. There's not a lot of three-point shooting, but you have playmaking, you have versatility, and you have another guy who can get yourself a bucket when you need it in DeMar DeRozan. Then the big fish, the clickbaity stuff is Joel Embiid. Does he ask out of Philadelphia and all that stuff? That's the clickbaity one. But the realistic aspect of that, probably not realistic at all.
It's non-existent.
It's not a thing. It's all clickbait BS. Maybe you look at Toronto. Do you try and go get like a Gary Trent Jr. on a sign-in trade? Do you try and you put your hat in the OG Anunoby sweepstakes? Do you try and get Pascal Siakam? Do these moves vault the Knicks into Eastern Conference Championship / NBA Finals contention? I don't think so. And that might not be the answer Knicks fans want to hear. The answer you want to hear, Chris.
I gotta move.
But
I gotta move.
Okay, yeah.
I gotta move.
The ones that I've said, at least, I just don't think that would do it enough. But that puts them in a weird spot because I think they should be. This is their ceiling, so they have to do something because the title is what every team's goal is. So they got to make a move. But what's your move, Chris? Because the ones I'm saying, I'm not really moved by. What's yours?
You know how Brandon said before, you take a risk.
Yeah.
I'm taking the ultimate risk. I'm calling New Orleans, and I'm saying,
shut up. No.
Zion Williamson.
Oh my God.
He doesn't want to be there, guys. He doesn't want to be there. Yeah. He's doing too many wild. He's doing too many wild stuff in New Orleans. Too much gumbo. This is
gumbo.
Too much
is that
food,
a euphemism?
Not enough activity.
Gumbo a euphemism?
It's a euphemism. Yes. What do you want for Zion? We got this guy. We got this guy named RJ Barrett.
Sorry.
I've been trying to trade RJ for a few years now. After like the first half of his sophomore year, I was like, all right, let's keep it packing. But I'm doing it. I'm taking a risk because at this point, like you said, Francis, I think this is where we're at. Now, I would like Brandon Ingram if you wanted, you could call him, but I don't think he's going to be available because I don't think he's just going to be available. I think
they don't want to keep him.
I think New Orleans, with everything going on with Zion, he's only averaging 25 games a season. And listen, if you watch the draft lottery, when he saw the Knicks get the third pick, kind of upset. He was destined to be here, but the NBA god said, nah, let's give it to Memphis and to New Orleans, not the Lakers and the Knicks, but I'm going to swing for the fences, and I'm going to pray that the move to New York gets him healthy, gets him motivated and all that. And we could control that, with all that, because, it's a big city, you're not going to be as, you're not going to stand out as much. So you can kind of hide in a city where he's, a large figure and all that, both figuratively and so he won't be as big. Man. Listen, he won't be as big as he won't in New York. There's a lot of walking. There's a lot of great stuff to do in New York. You take the train to the game and all. There's a lot to. There's not gumbo and all that.
He'd be motivated, because
we have a lot of great hospitals to check your diabetes if he has it. Cyanide. We have all the facilities, to check up on the kid. So like he's still young. I'm calling them, and if you would have told me this a week ago, I was like, nah, I don't know. But somehow all this stuff is like, I would do it. You got some. I don't think you have to give up as much as you think. I don't think you could give up, if it's Obi Toppin, Mr. RJ Barrett, a couple picks.
You'd have to trade Randall. You'd have to, because you can't play Mr. Randall.
Julius.
You can't play Zion Randall. Yeah. No, you can't do that. So
no, and you would have to try to find a way to move Randall in there. Yeah. I don't know if it'd be a trade to New Orleans or try to make it, a part of a separate deal or 3-team trade, something like that. But I'm gonna call New Orleans. I'm gonna be like, hey, let's get this problem off your hands. Let's take this problem off your hands. Give you some, Mr. RJ won't do none of that stuff in Nolans, that. And then I'm no joking with the RJ, but I feel like RJ, I think he needs to change the scenery because his progression is actually very good in a way. He's progressed the way, you like to see from a young player, but it's New York. So like when he first got drafted there, we were terrible. We missed out on free agency and all that. It was a bad time for him to come. But now that we're trying to win and all that, his progression is like, we need you to do a little bit more and all that. And in New Orleans, he could be able to progress gradually and all that. And they'll appreciate it more than New York fans and all that. They'll let him grow. And I think he could potentially be, maybe a borderline all-star maybe in a few years. But I'm calling Nolans. I'm going to be like Brandon. I'm taking a risk. And if we miss, we miss. And then we rebuild. And listen, we've done it how many times, it would be nothing to New Yorkers, but a part of me would be like, hey, let's, because when he's on the court, they win. You're winning. I know it's not a lot, but they're winning. Yeah. And maybe we can change it. Maybe he comes here, a new change of scenery. Maybe, eventually he gets healthy and all that. But I think I would take the risk. It's a massive risk. But if you're Leon Rose, you're kind of still on the, maybe you might not be here next year. Tibbs might not be here next year. Next year is a big year for the Knicks. Like they have to do something. They can't go back and all that. And to me, I think you try to make that home run trade because there's not a lot of trades out there. You know, there's no Kevin Durant available anymore. There's none of that, those type of players, you know, unless you want Bradley Beal and all that. Damian Lillard doesn't fit with Brunson. That's what I'm doing. I don't know how you guys feel about that, and I love your thoughts, but that would be my big move for New York. Just go for it and see what happens. It'll be interesting, but I think I do that. I make that move. Go
ahead, Brandon.
Okay, so think about Zion, which was crazy. There was news today, right, that Zion would prefer a change of scenery, and it said, "Yeah,
it's happening."
It's
happening. Where's the news? He's gonna hear this. Where's I
gotta see this.
Just a bunch of bangs. He wants to bang.
Yeah.
He wants
literally.
To bang.
He wants to bang in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
he wants that. And like I think just in terms of like Zion's trajectory, considering like where he is right now, absolutely New York would be the best fit for him because he wants to be there. He's always wanted to be there. He wants to play in that market. He'd be motivated to be the best player possible because it's always been his dream to play in New York. So I absolutely think that that's a big swing that the Knicks should look into taking. My only reservation is if you are the Knicks, are you sure you want to make this move? Because you have Jalen Brunson, right? Who has shown you in these past playoffs that he's ready for prime time, right? Like this guy is coming off a season in which he should have been an all-star, had an all-NBA season, willed his team out of the first round, nearly willed his team in the second round. If not for those, unfortunate events in the last half of that game 6. But it's like New York wants to win. And like, if you bring Zion here and he's still, same old Zion in terms of like, on the injury report half the season, first it's a hamstring, then he's being reevaluated in 8 weeks, can New York afford to wait on that? Given that Brunson is already this great player right now and that they're trying to win and trying to build something. And that's the only thing, if I'm New York, I have hesitation about. And like, yeah, of course, like you trade Randall for Brunson, but like Randall's available. Randall plays games like in the regular season.
He plays a lot of games.
He plays
mostly all of them. He really does.
Mostly all of them. Zion's a huge question mark. And like, if you don't have Zion, like in the playoffs, especially, like you're not going anywhere. So it's like, if you're the Knicks, like, do you really want to bank on that potential to like make a splash, knowing that if you don't do that, like you're gonna be on the hook for like $30 million a year for an often injured player. Like that's just a very like big opportunity cost that I think the Knicks have to weigh. If it works, beautiful. If it doesn't, I think it could really sink what the Knicks have going on for them right now.
No, I understand that risk. And I still think they should definitely look into it.
I'd take Pascal Siakam.
It's a safer pick.
I think he's a safer pick. He is a dominant two-way player. Yes, I mean, I think with Pascal's, I think if everything goes right with Pascal Siakam, the Knicks, there is a situation in which the Knicks can make the Eastern Conference Finals. I think Pascal Siakam is that great of a player.
No, I mean, they almost made it this year with Julius Randle, with a bad ankle, averaging 16 a game. They almost got there. So Pascal would be, Toronto would be, but I don't think they're going to make like this massive splash. And like I said, there's those guys, that superstar player that everyone's envisioning about. I don't think it's there. I don't think it exists right now. I don't think it's a real thing. So that's why I feel like you got to try to take that risk, try to find that player with upside, that could swing and that could be that guy. That's what I'm saying with the Zion. Someone of at will, like you feel like has the upside, that can help elevate you and get you to the Eastern Conference Finals and maybe even to the NBA Finals. They just like, that's something I would try to do, but I don't know.
Chris.
Oh, that's it. And that's the end of the Off the Ball podcast. That's it. That's a great show. These two guys. No. I don't want Cat. I can't do it.
Dude, wait, hold on. When Cat retires, we're going to be talking about him as someone who changed the NBA. So
he went from
come on, guys. He said it today, and I could not disagree more. What an idiot! I hate Cat. That dude sucks.
He's one of the.
We in Minnesota here now. Shut up, Cat. Stop it, bro.
He changed the game so much they lost in the first round in 5.
Bro,
he really changed the game and all that.
We changed the game so much that we now realize that big men need to actually be able to play defense to be impactful.
I don't know if
you're going to be like offensive bigs. Oh, wait, you actually need to defend too. All right, cool. Yeah, let's probably focus on.
There was what possession was it? I remember. I don't know who the player was, but it was on a switch, and he had, I think D'Angelo Russell on him, and he let D'Angelo Russell just body him to go back to the 3-point. I'm like. Oh, and I threw something at the wall. I was so frustrated because I hate when big.
Oh, it's talking about when D'Lo pushed Cat to the
and he pushed, and then he's trying to get a reset. It's like,
yeah,
I'm like, all right. I was like, all right, you're 7 foot tall, 250, okay, 255, give or take. D'Angelo Russell, 6'3", 6'4", 205.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Like. No, I don't want any Towns in New York. No, I don't think the fit. Then they're gonna want to play him at the because I've seen Knicks fans like Mitchell Robinson and him. I was like, oh yeah, because that works so well in Minnesota with Gobert and him. So you want to let a worse version of that, and you think that's gonna work? Oh yeah, come on, yeah, you guys are real smart. You guys are. It didn't work in Minnesota clearly, so we have a less version of Gobert. And we want to, and so you want the defense, and with Jalen Brunson playing deep, this is what. All right, guys, you want us to just not just give up every point in the world. You want to regress, unless you want everyone fired. And first of all, Towns and Tibbs, that's the no go.
Oh,
Tibbs is still the coach of the team. It's just it doesn't work.
That's true.
And all
that's a good point.
It doesn't work. All right, so like that, Tibbs is still the coach there. It ain't gonna work. So no, I do not want.
Yeah.
No.
It's funny because I think okay.
I'd rather Hassan Whiteside. Give me Hassan Whiteside from Puerto Rico, wherever he's playing. I'd rather have him than you think he's in Puerto Rico right now.
Because I think the Knicks have they have so many things right. They've got the starting point guard. They have great role players. Josh Hart, Manuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes. Like they have great role players. Yeah. They got starting point guard. It's just that consistent star. Good coach. Like just that consistent second star. If they had that, they'd be drastically different team with a much higher ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Many things right.
I think for all of them to take that next level, I don't think Julius Randle can be your 2. I think Brunson, whether he's your 1A, 1B, I feel like you can get far with that. It's just finding the right guy to coexist with Brunson. To me, that's the key. And if you can't find that guy, don't force it. Don't force it just to make a move, right? I rather stay put and keep the team at status quo than force a move that disrupts the team. And now, guess what? We're the laughing stock again.
Unless it's Zion.
Unless it's Zion. I do it for Zion. But don't force it if it's not going. If it's not going to fit with Brunson. To me, you got to have that fit with Brunson because we've seen what he could do. I trust him. He's been doing it since he was in college. So he shows that trustability. He did it in Dallas last year. He showed it in the playoffs with a hobbled Randall and all that. That he can be one or two piece. So you got to find that perfect. Yeah, playoff rise and all. He could be that. He's still young and all that. So find that piece and all that. So going to be interesting offseason for the Knicks. Going to be interesting offseason for the Grizzlies. But my guys, where's the round of applause? I have a round of applause. Just got to find it. But fellas, this has been a pleasure. It didn't even feel like we talked this long, but I know
I could talk for.
I could go on a marathon. I can go on a marathon now, but I do have to eat a thing called dinner.
You have to eat.
I gotta cook that up. But guys, Brandon, Francis, this was a pleasure. Francis, you've been on the show a few times, man. I always love chopping it up with you. And Brandon,
for sure.
Like I said, one of the best followers on Twitter. Like I said, you keep doing your thing, and to see your rise too. You're doing big things. In the Memphis media space. I love seeing people achieve and grow and all that. Francis, same thing with you, man. You've done a lot of cool things and all that. But this was a pleasure, guys. This was a lot of fun and all that. But before we sign off, please tell the people where they can find you, any projects you got coming up. The floor is yours. Brandon, like I said, appreciate you. First time. I got to get you on the solo, me and you. Just talk, one-on-one and all that. We'll definitely get that. But tell the people where they can find you and any projects that are coming up.
Yeah. So my Twitter handle, pretty easy. It's just my name, at Brandon_Nwokeji. I am a writer and contributor for Bluff City Media. Working on a few profiles right now. Got a Desmond Bain feature dropping in a few days. Also got some draft profiles coming out. I'll be profile on your guy, Jalen Hood, Sholfino Chris, next week. Got that dropping. I'll be going to Summer League in a couple of weeks.
Awesome.
Just writing some feature stories on the Grizzlies, young guys there. But yeah, you can catch all my stuff on Bluff City Media. Again, Chris, pleasure to be here. Love what you're doing with Off the Ball Network. Keep it coming because the people love it and I love it.
Yeah, appreciate it. I wish I could have my name, but everybody would assume that I'm like a LeBron James fan, Stan account. I'm like, no, it's really my last name, guys. But
yeah,
it's crazy. Before Francis, the NBA Finals to the first year that the Heat came together, LeBron and all that. I had like real LeBron as my Twitter thing.
Yeah.
Do you understand when the Heat lost?
My
mentions. No. I wish I could pull them up because it was 10.
That's 10, hilarious, dude.
People were killing me. They're hilarious. You only average. How can you only do this in the finals? I'm like, you got the wrong LeBron. I had King LeBron because it was my it was my Xbox gamer tag. It was my Xbox gamer tag, so I just went along with it, and my mentions got destroyed when LeBron lost, when they lost the finals. Killed. I'm like, what? Why am I like? And that was like when Twitter just like really got, and I was like, why am I mentioned? Why I got so many? Like I wasn't really tweeting like that, and I was like, why am I mentioned? And like, oh, you freaking suck. Only 6. We should have never brought you here. Blah blah blah. Dwayne Wade doesn't need. I'm like, oh wow. I'm not who you. No, it's not me. You know that, right? Like, I have an avatar of me, like not LeBron James. Like, what do you? I remember that like it was yesterday. I wish I had been saved, but I remember just getting killed for that. But that's why, if I keep LeBron as my handle, the people are just gonna be like, oh no, he's just a LeBron writer and all that. But that's why I keep Off the Ball pod. But Francis, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great story, Chris. Absolutely.
I got killed. My mentions got destroyed. I'm like, guys, you got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. I tried. I tried to play my best. I tried.
I love that. I think the most hate I've ever gotten on Twitter from a tweet was I said that if John Morant were healthy, the Grizzlies would have beaten the Warriors. And the tweet found its way. It found its way to Warriors Twitter, and people were just all I mentioned, like, you dumbass, you don't know basketball, you're so stupid. Sending me emojis of poop. I'm like, oh my god, like y'all are aggressive. It's just, good God, relax.
People could be Francis, remember the tweet we put? So Brand, I don't know if you saw, but like maybe a few months back, we had a little fun. We try to get more engagements, and we're not really we don't really throw hot takes out there. But one time we just said, let's spice it up a little bit. Let's throw something out there that's a little crazy. And we ranked these busts, and I don't even remember the other 3 guys, but John Wall was in there. And obviously he's not a bust, but we just put him in there just to throw, just throw a wrench in there.
I do remember this post.
Dude, the mentions.
Everybody.
I got death threats.
I remember that post. That's great.
I'm like, oh my God, get death threats over a tweet. 10 million impressions. When I say people like, I'm not following this account anymore, I had NBA players on there. I had people who didn't know that it was that I own Off the Ball Network that were like, whoever runs this, and I didn't post it. It was someone else we did it, but we just said, let's just have some fun, whatever. We weren't taking it serious, but we didn't think it would get this. And we just did it, and it went crazy. Francis, you remember? Like, I'm like,
course.
yeah, I had to like shut off my, like, I felt like what a celebrity does when they post anything and they obviously have to like mute their mentions or the notifications. I was like, whoa, this was intense. It was intense. So like, and Twitter, if you say anything that's not, like if it's even the slightest thing, you saw Francis, like you just said, you get killed.
It gets a lot. It gets excessive. But yeah, crazy. Speaking of Twitter, you can find me on the Twitter at Slugga Sports, SLUGGA Sports. You can find me writing for Bluff City Media. Got a Derek Whitehead profile coming up, and got a DeAndre Williams piece about him in Memphis. His time with the Tigers. That'll be coming soon.
I think he's my age. I think he's 34. Right? He's on his 10th year of eligibility.
He is up there. Bluff City. Yeah, that's right. Bring him back if he got eligibility. But yeah. So I mean, like a lot
of loopholes in that system for him to be 27.
I know. Lots of.
Are you older than the professors?
Well, look, man. Look, bro. I break down a journey and everything. It all makes sense. I lay out the timeline and stuff. But
that'd be a good pickup for you if you pick them up.
Yeah,
for you guys.
Yeah, I'd be happy. But yeah, doing that for Bluff City Media. I'm just trying to wait for Memphis Tigers basketball to come back so I can start consistently putting stuff out there. But like otherwise, I love you, Chris. You're one of my favorite people in basketball. Just period. You're an awesome guy. I love being on the pod talking to you. So, Brandon, my G as well. I can't wait to see you. I'll be in Summer League for only a day. I'll only be there a day, but I'll still be very excited. We'll have fun that day. We'll have a good time.
Enjoy it. I eventually I got to get the Summer League. I tried this year, but just got a new job and all that. So won't be able. But hopefully next year I'll be able to get there. But one thing I do with shows is just I try to have fun. Like you see a lot of people and they're just straightforward and just we try. And Francis, you've seen it with those shows. That's why I'd be able to create a lot of friendships beyond just doing a show, right? And create relationships, create great networking. It's just having a fun show. Like we did almost 2 hours and you would have never known, right? And I feel like people who are going to watch this or listen to this are going to really enjoy the show and all that. So that's what I try to do when I bring to the Off the Ball, and that's why we bring to the network and all that. Try to have that fun atmosphere, family atmosphere. Yeah. Because it's bigger than just doing a show. Like I hear a lot of people, and they always tell me, like, "How do you do it?" I was like, "Man, be genuine, have fun with it." I know everybody wants to be serious and they want to talk about this X's and O's and all that, but it's more than that. Just try to have a fun show, enjoy it and all that. So you get, like I said, that's how I've been able to build a tremendous amount of relationships and all that. But like I said, it's all love. You guys are great. We're definitely going to have you back again talking Memphis and all that. But like I said, this was a pleasure, fellas. But you can find me at Off the Ball Pod. That's our most active. I'm talking everything, NBA, college basketball, giving players their flowers and all that. I try to do that a couple times a week and all that. I gotta refresh lately I've been trying to do like profiles, like some underrated, like 20 point per game seasons and all. Like last time I did Richard Jefferson, he actually reached out. He actually hit me up and is like, guys play because he played 82 games that year. I think average like 23 and all. So try to do that. Try to, do little things on that. But you can follow me Off the Ball Pod. That's our most active. Instagram, make sure to follow, subscribe to Off the Ball Network YouTube. Make sure to follow the Off the Ball Network. Go to offtheballnetwork.com, OTB_network on Twitter. That's our most active, and on the Instagram too. But like I said, you guys are great. Appreciate you guys. And on that note, be well, be safe, take care, everyone. Peace out.